Eruvin Perek Hey, Mishnah Hey. Hey. So we're considering how to measure Tchum Shabbat. That's how we're discussing lastly. Ein modedim ela min hamumche. It says when we measure, like we learned last time, we only measure from the mumche. What's a mumche? כלומר, שאין מדידת התחום נעשית אלא על ידי מומחה. The first explanation is what's a mumche. We're going to see where does the word mumche comes from.
Server. Until today, mumche.
Yeah, but where does this word mumche comes from? We're going to find out.
Oh.
What's a mumche? We only measure by an expert. It has to be an expert. Mumche over here means expert.
Okay, expert.
מומחה, הבקי במדידת הקרקע. Somebody who's an expert in measuring the ground. Now, we're going to learn where does the word מומחה comes, but תוספת מובא, but תוספות מובא, in תוספות it brings, פירוש אחר, another explanation. What's the word מומחה? Where does the origin of the word מומחה comes from? מלשון ומחה על כתף ים כנרת. למחות means to straighten, to go straight, על כתף ים כנרת, to go straight on כתף, on the shoulder of the כנרת. That's במדבר למד י"א. כלומר, what does it mean? So we learned when you measure the measurements, you can go a little bit to the east, a little bit to the west. If there's a mountain over there, if there's a valley, a crevice. So it says over here we learn from the shon macha, go straight על כתף ים כנרת, כלומר שאין מודדים אלא בדרך ישרה ומכוונת כנגד העיר. In other words, if you can measure it right next to the city, measure it right next to the city. Don't go up and down because it's a little bit more. I mean, if you have a valley, you have to. But try to make it right on the measurement of the city. ויש מפרשים, there are those who explains, לפי התוספות, according to the Tosfos, a different even reasoning, that what? שלכתחילה אין לו למדוד אלא ממקום שיוכל להגיע ממנו עד סוף התחום. It says, don't think ahead. You see mountains over there? So, of course, you can measure over here 50 feet, 50 amma, and another 50 amma, but then you get to the mountain, and then you're going to move. So, from the beginning, use a place that you don't have any obstacles that you can use. אלא ממקום שיכול להגיע ממנו עד סוף התחום. That you can reach in one shot. ולא יצטרך להניח מקום המדידה. You won't need to leave the measurement place. ולמלך למקום אחר כדי להבליע גיא או גדר. You know, to go to another place in order to swallow the mountain or to swallow the fence like we learned yesterday.
They used to measure with the rope, 50 amma rope. They still do it.
Yeah.
They still do it today? No.
Yeah.
Oh, in Israel? Okay.
I think also over here now they use the telescopes.
Exactly, מה היום?
Yeah.
זה ככה אתה עוד... I see them sometimes.
ריבה, let's continue. ריבה למקום אחד ומיעט למקום אחר. So a person measures 2,000 amma over here and then he measures also 2,000 amma over there. And he notices that this 2,000 amma is a little bit longer than this 2,000 amma on the top. So it says now, which one is going to use? The longer one or the shorter one? So let's see. ריבה למקום אחד ומיעט למקום אחר, מדד רוח אחת משתי קרנותיה. He measured the east side of the city from both corners, כגון בקרן מזרחית דרומית, for example, east, southeast, ובקרן מזרחית צפונית, and northeast, ונמצא שבקרן אחד גדול התחום אשר בחברתה, and he found that one of them is longer than the other one. So he says, so now what should you do? You should go with the longer one or the shorter one. So it says, שומעים למקום שריבה. Because he's going to make a square now around the city. So he's going to make the square, the question is, when he makes a square for Tchum Shabbat around the city, he's going to make the square on the longer one or on the shorter one. So it says, you go to the longer one. הולכים אחר התחום שריבה, או מוסיפים על המקום שמיית. So you go after the longer one. Why? מפני שאנו אומרים, because we're going to say, שבמקום המועט לא מתח קור צרכו את חבל המדידה. We're going to say in the smaller one he didn't stretch it enough. That's why it became smaller. אבל הרמב"ם כותב, this is the Rambam writes, היו לנו תחומי שבת מוחזקים. We had the תחום שבת, we had it from before. The city is an old city, everybody knows. This rock is exactly תחום שבת. ובא מומחה ומדד, and now comes an expert. Again, after 50 years, that was 50 years ago. Now comes a new expert, comes and measures. וריבה את התחום במקום אחד. And in one place he says, hey, it's not that rock. I know you guys been using that rock. It's actually like 10 meters more you have. ומיעט במקום אחר. And he took away from another place. שומעים לו בתחום שריבה. Even the same expert. Where he said to add, we add. ובגמרא מבואר שאף למקום שריבה שומעים לו. וכל שכן למקום שמיעט. The Gemara says, how much more so for the place that he's in? That's I would don't understand from the Rambam.
That should be the opposite.
Yeah, this is from the Rambam. The way we're doing it, you're going to make it more lenient and not less lenient. That's the easiest way to learn it. In other words, you're going to make it bigger. Why? It's a mitzvah. The Rabbanan, the sages establish the Tchum Shabbat. It's a science for the sages. They don't want to make our life too difficult.
So then you make it more.
You make it more, the least difficult to make it on people. What happened? ריבה לאחד ומיעט לאחר. He elongated one and he lessened the other one. בגמרא מפורש, in the Gemara it explains, that שאם הוא דודי שתי מומחים זה אחר זה, 2 experts came to town and you tell them, you know what, both of you, go and do it. Go and measure. So one of them is longer than the other. ונמצא תחומו של אחד מרובו משל חברו. We found that one of them is longer than the other. שומעים למי? למרובה. We listen to the guy who is longer. Again, for the same reasoning. הולכים אחר התחום של המודד של ריבה. We're going to be lenient. We're going to go after the measurement which is longest. And then new subject. What happens if you live in a town and like 20 years ago somebody came and he puts the measurements, right? So people know in town, this tree is the edge, this fence is the edge, that whatever is the edge. That people made for themselves. They're already there 50 years. So it asks the question, who can you trust? So usually by Jewish law, you can't trust just anybody. You have to trust 2 men who are Shomer Shabbos. No. Who do you trust? Not after the measurement. Who do you trust that knows what the measurement got? This is 20 years later.
I see.
So it says usually by Jewish law you need to ask 2 men who are kosher, 2 kosher men. Yeah, you don't just trust anybody. So over here, look who you will trust. So it says, afilu eved, even a non-Jew, a slave, an eved. Afilu shifcha, even a non-Jew maidservant, a woman. Knaanim, not just Jews. They were going. Ne'emanim lomar, we trust them to say, ad kan tchum Shabbat. It says, I remember I worked with my master. My master told me not allowed to walk more than here, I remember. And you trust him. Again, why? Nowhere else again, because it's a mitzvah from the rabbis. The rabbis invented it. They're going to make it. They're going to make it as lenient as possible. And he doesn't have a reason to lie. There's no reason to lie. He's just telling you, I remember, this is what it is. What does he care? He's allowed to walk whatever he wants. It's you who has the problem. Klomar, which means, what do they say? שראינו שפלוני מומחה, we saw that an individual who is an expert, מדד את התחום, he measured the distance, והגיע לכאן, and he reached until here. שלא אמרו חכמים את הדבר, להחמיר אלא להקל. Here's the rule, the חכמים made this ruling, but they say we're going to make it as easy for the people as possible. כלומר, הואיל ואיסור היציאה מחוץ ל2,000 של תחום שבת הוא מדרבנן, since it's a mitzvah from us, from the rabbis, because we don't want everybody to start walking left and right. So it says, אין הולכים בעניין התחום לחומרה אלא לכולה. We're going to go always lenient when it comes to תחומי שבת. We're never going to be strict in it.